uh, he's going to give a quick glimpse about SVBC's one of SVBC's events that's coming up. That's Bike to the Future, our annual fundraising ride, and then we'll jump into the El Camino campaign. After you, Colin.
All right, thank you, Sanya. So this should take just a few minutes. So I'm Colin, the event coordinator at SVBC. So here to talk to you about our fundraising ride that's coming up. So some of you probably have seen emails about it. You may have also participated in the past years. So mark your calendar, it's Sunday, October 29th. So besides fundraising to support our work, it's also an opportunity for us to build awareness. So a chance for us to go outside our usual circle and maybe reach out to the rec riders or folks who may not have heard about SVBC. So that's why we designed the event to provide something for everyone. So we have the usual distance options. We have a 31-mile ride, a 51-mile ride, also a 15-mile trail riding option for the families, and it's going to be on Guadalupe River Trail, and a 6-mile scavenger hunt that takes folks through some bike infrastructures in downtown San Jose and look for interesting murals and statues, things like that. So we want to reach out to our local team. So not only to invite you to join the ride, but also to help us spread the word. So let me give a quick demo of the website where folks can sign up. In my screen. Okay, so the easiest way to get to the website is through our main website. So bikesiliconvalley.org. So here you see the link on top of the page. It says Bike to the Future. So there's a direct link that goes to that page, but this is the easiest way since most of you probably are familiar with our website. So from there, you click on the link. It'll take you to our fundraising website. I'm not sure why it takes so long, but here it comes. Still loading. There we go. Okay, so this is the website, and with some information about how to sign up. There's a 2-step process to sign up. We'll come back to this. You keep scrolling. So there's some information about the ride, some high-level information, and describe the different options. You have the 6-mile that I mentioned earlier, 15, 31, 51. And we also have a mini bike festivals for those people who may not be riding, so they can enjoy the day with maybe their family members who are doing the ride. Some more information about the ride. And we're giving away a e-bike for the top fundraiser. So if you're an individual fundraiser, you raise the most amount, you get to win an e-bike. We also have some information about the top team who can recruit the most members, and also who can bring in the most fundraising dollar amount. They get to have a VIP tent at the event and some bragging rights. It shows some of the top fundraisers currently. And throughout the event, we're going to have contests like Halloween costume contest and some fun races and things like that, so people can win prizes. And so everyone who registered will receive a neck gaiter. Also, there's going to be bike jerseys available. So the design is finalizing. So once we have that, we'll post it here. So this is some of the other activities we have besides the ride. So when you get a chance, you can go to the website and look at this. So I'm just going to run through this real quick and go over the sign-up process. So if you're unable to make it on the day of the event, you might want to talk to your friends and family, see if they can volunteer on the event as well. So here's some information where they can sign up. Okay, let's go back to the top there on the sign up page. So to register, they click on this link. So they have an option of selecting the different rides, 6 mile with a jersey. Different options, 15 miles, 31 miles, 51 miles. And also they can, if they just want to participate on the bike festival, there's an option for that. Or if someone wants to just get a jersey, they can do that here as well. So this is step 1 to actually sign up. And there's a step 2. This is where they create an account. So this year is different than previous year. This year we have the fundraising component. So you can sign up for an account, and also you will receive a web page that you can customize. And you can upload photos and write up a paragraph or 2 that you can send to your friends and family or coworkers. And you can also create a team. So this is where you can have these options. You can sign up as an individual, or you can join a team, or you can create a team. So if you are a local team member, you might want to check and see if there's already a team set up for you, for your local team, then you can join. And once you created the account, so this shows all the different fundraisers who had signed up. So if you can take Tim as an example. So look at Tim's webpage. So this webpage, Tim can customize. He can actually replace the banner as well. So he'll upload his photo, and he has some verbiage here to talk to his friends and family about why he's fundraising. Upload some photos. And also Tim is also a member of a team. So if you click here, you see the team page. And the team page has something similar, has a verbiage that you can customize, also has the team members showing on the underneath there. So that's pretty much it with the fundraising websites. Does anyone has any questions? Sanya, should we open it up for questions, or should we wait for later?
Yeah, we can open up for questions.
Okay. So assuming it was pretty clear. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure. Charlene.
Can you, so if you join a team, do you not need to create an individual page then?
You still want to create an individual account, and then you join the team.
You have to do both. Okay, and then for the goal of the team, is that independent of the individual goal?
Yeah, so if you remember down here where the prizes are, so this is individual.
I mean, if you pledge as an individual to raise X dollars, and then you create a team, and your team goal is Y dollars, is the X and Y related to each other? Like, is Y a sum of all the individual members of the team's goals?
Yeah, your team goal would be the total of the team members.
Although the website lets you specify them independently of each other.
Yeah, so that would be your individual goal.
Yeah, the team goal is separate from the individual goal. So you can set the team goal whatever you want. But the team does accumulate all the donations to the individuals into the team goal. So it all adds up in the end.
Oh, because I set the team goal to be lower than my individual goal. But in the end, you're saying whatever donations I get as an individual will automatically contribute to the team?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim. Anyone else?
And this is not the last opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions regarding this ride, feel free to email any one of us. Colin will be the most appropriate person, but if you want to reach out to someone else, we can point you to the right person. But we really look forward to seeing all of you at this ride. Sorry, Colin, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just going to say that's the email address that you can also use. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. And we really look forward to seeing all of you at this ride. It'll be a great opportunity to get to meet everyone in person and ride together. There, as Colin mentioned, there are multiple types of rides and also some like a bike fest, which all of us could participate in together. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And on that note, we're going to now jump into the forum for tonight. So let me restate what the agenda for today is. We're all here to kick off our an official El Camino Real campaign, where we're going to advocate for protected bike lanes and safe crossings on El Camino all the way from Daly City to San Jose. And SVBC staff did put together a draft work plan or a draft campaign plan, but we want to use this space to actually get feedback from all of you and work and finalize that campaign plan together. This is just a kickoff, so it'll just going to be like a very macro level overview of what's happening on El Camino, and then folks who are interested in taking that further, we'll have a smaller closed group to keep talking about it and work together to take this campaign forward. So thank you all once again for joining, and I'm going to share my screen to get us started. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the agenda for today is we did welcome and we did take a couple surveys in the beginning. We will send these 2 surveys out later, so you will get a chance to provide feedback. Colin gave a quick overview about Bike to the Future. Next 15 minutes I'll be spending to present our campaign plan sheet, followed by Q&A. Then we'll do a quick Jamboard exercise to see what actions we can draw to get attention on El Camino. And then I'll just be breezing through some next steps. These are next steps which we'll probably be running or working on together with the closed group of people who are interested in being more actively involved in El Camino Real stuff. So starting with the goal, we've named this campaign El Camino Real 2030, hoping to like with a vision that we'll have bike lanes, protected bike lanes and safe crossings for the entire stretch of El Camino by 2030. And the goal is to have cohesive, complete streets infrastructure that consists of protected bike lanes and safe crossings designed and constructed from Daly City to San Jose by 2030. The way we arrived at this goal was that we wanted to meet all the 5 criteria to set up a SMART goal. So we wanted to keep it very specific, make sure it is measurable, attainable, reasonable, and also time-bound. And the way we arrived at this 2030 timeline, which does seem far away, and we would like to have had this infrastructure yesterday, but the way we arrived at this timeline was there are quite a lot of projects in the pipeline on the Caltrans side and with cities. And if those projects go on track, we will have bike lanes on El Camino for at least 50% of the stretch in the next decade. But as you all know, no project actually follows a timeline. So this campaign is like on one side is to ensure and put a lot of pressure to make sure those projects which are ongoing actually get implemented on the proposed timelines. And for the remaining 50% of the cities where there are no plans of implementation in the near future, we want to get activated and push them to prioritize this and get this done and implemented and constructed by 2030. So that's the goal. Next is vision. Why El Camino Real, and why not parallel routes, and what's the history? So we've talked about this multiple times, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part. There have been there are people who don't agree with bringing bike lanes on El Camino Real, but after multiple discussions and needs of people that we've identified, SVBC is going to move forward with advocating for protected bike lanes on El Camino. The reasons being, there are several parallel routes, like you can see in this diagram, and they're not direct and not all the destinations are finally on El Camino, so people have to come to El Camino anyways. And it is a high collision corridor. We'll talk about crash data in a bit. And at the end, people are already using it. So there are already a lot of people walking, already a lot of people biking. So it just absolutely makes sense to advocate for making this only north-south corridor, which is accessible by bike, a safe place for everyone walking and biking. So here is some research that we put together. Like, first, let's identify who are the decision makers. First and foremost, El Camino Real is a state highway, which is owned and operated by a state agency, which is Caltrans. Cities have jurisdiction over their respective portions of El Camino, and counties have jurisdiction over the portions that go through unincorporated areas of the county. Like near Colma, there is a small portion in North Fair Oaks near Redwood City. There's a small portion which is owned and which falls under the jurisdiction of San Mateo County Office of Sustainability, and similarly, some portions of Santa Clara County also fall under unincorporated areas. Now, while Caltrans is primarily responsible for owning and any operations or any maintenance of this stretch, this does not mean that cities cannot do anything on these respective cities. It's a complicated process. You have to apply for permits, and sometimes permits take anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. So it's often that cities don't want to go through that permitting process and would rather wait for Caltrans to do something on their own. So while we cannot expect or we don't think Caltrans will actually go and do the entire stretch in the next 7 years, we'll have to work with cities as well. So the advocacy on that part will be to make sure that Caltrans fast tracks their permitting process. And we have seen certain examples of them doing that, like recently with the South City pilot that they did on El Camino Real, which was, again, I think a DEER permitting process, which they fast-tracked because they were a part of that Complete Streets Academy who made the pilot possible. So it's not that they cannot do it. We just need to put a lot of pressure on them to make sure that it happens. Outside of the cities and Caltrans, there are also regional agencies that play a role. And some of these agencies are VTA, that is Valley Transportation Authority, since they're the congestion management agency in Santa Clara County. And they also have been, they put together the county's bike ped plan, the bicycle superhighway plan, and the Central Bikeway project, which passes through Santa Clara which passes through El Camino in the city of Santa Clara. The next agency in San Mateo County is San Mateo County Transportation Authority, which manages and approves the Measure A and Measure W funds. And they provide funds for active transportation, transit, and multiple uses. Another agency who will be involved is Samtrans, because they recently did a study on El Camino Real bus rapid transit, and they are interested in seeing how El Camino could be a possible place, or how we could fast track movement of transit on El Camino. And we would love to work with all these agencies. So we're not working in silos, but all working together to advocate for a street which prioritizes transit, people walking and biking, and gets people out of cars. And some of these agency people might be in this room right now, but we're not going to direct questions to them. We're using this space to basically work together. And if you have questions for them, we can direct those to them later. The next agency is Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which is a regional agency covering 9 counties in the Bay Area. And they monitor active transportation and OBAC funding. They've set together a lot of guidelines and recommendations for the 9 Bay Area county. So that is another agency to work with to, again, build pressure and also get funding for faster implementation. And then last but not the least, we have the Grand Boulevard initiative. Another initiative, I think, which was put together or started by Samtrans. It's a collaboration of 19 cities across both the counties to make sure, like, having a vision of El Camino Real, which is a place for residents to work, live, shop, and play, and create links between communities that promote walking and transit and an improved and meaningful quality of life. So, like, these are the different regional agencies to work with, and these will have some sort of like a decision-making authority while making improvements on El Camino. El Camino Real is a high collision corridor. It is only 1% of all streets in San Mateo County, yet 7% of all roadway collisions and 10% of collisions involving people walking and biking have occurred on El Camino in the last 10 years. For Santa Clara County, El Camino Real is 0.5% of all streets, yet 2% of all roadway collisions and 3% of all collisions involving people walking and biking have occurred on El Camino in the last 10 years. This is a rough crash data. So the total number of crashes in San Mateo County and Santa Clara County have been listed down here. And it just shows that there is a real high number or a percentage of people walking and biking that are being hurt in this process on this corridor. So like 15% of pedestrian crash, out of the total number of crashes on El Camino, 15% were pedestrians in San Mateo and 10% were pedestrians in Santa Clara. And similarly, 19% almost, 19% of the crashes were bike related in San Mateo and 15% in Santa Clara. Like, this shows two things. First, that there are already people walking and biking. So this reinforces the need of prioritizing El Camino Real. I forgot the other thing. So sorry about that, but just highlights the need for making this safer for people walking and biking. This is a heat map for San Mateo and Santa Clara County. And the reason why we've been, we are trying to make this a very thorough document so that we capture everything that's going on, why El Camino Real, what does the data show in one place, so that whenever we reach out to any county, any agency, any partner, we can show that, like, this is this is a compilation of everything that shows why El Camino is so important and why we need to prioritize this. Then a little bit more of digging down on crash data shows that, like, we did some analysis to find out what are the 10 primary crash factors on El Camino Real. And these are the 10 factors. And if you go into detail, several of these factors can easily be mitigated by making small necessary infrastructure improvements. Like, there are reasons of pedestrian right-of-way, which means that maybe there are reasons around not having a high visibility crosswalk, or the crossing distance from one point to get from one point of El Camino to the other was so long that by the time the person reached midway, it was red light and he was stuck. Which means that we need to have shorter crossing distances at the intersection and increase the visibility so that drivers can actually see pedestrians from a farther distance. Similarly, for like pedestrian violation, like if a pedestrian had actually made a violation of maybe like did not like jumped a red light or did a mid-block crossing, which means that there is not enough visibility for drivers and pedestrians to see each other. So daylighting is a solution for solving that problem. Similarly, like reducing turning radii for vehicles while making turns so that it slows their speed down and does not have major impacts if at all there's a crash. Increasing visibility of everyone in the intersection. narrowing lane widths to discourage people to drive fast, just daylighting the entire corridor, adding mid-block crossings, because if a pedestrian has to go half a mile to just cross, they're not going to do that. Because, and if there is a need for a person to get from one place to another, which already is happening, might as well have a mid-block crossing to make that happen. So there are lots of smaller improvements that can reduce these number of crashes, and data shows this. So we can actually use, like, we can absolutely use this data to show why this is so important and why it shouts for certain infrastructure improvements to make this corridor safer. And we'll be adding more citywide data so that we can use we can use the local data to actually talk to our respective city staff and council members to bring them all on board. Any questions so far? Or Anthony, Heather, Diana, do you have anything to add? Okay. Moving on to the next part, which is let's just dive deep into where different cities are at with respect to projects that are happening on El Camino. So this table goes to all cities, all the way from Daly City to San Jose. And I'm just going to talk quickly about each city and what projects they have in the pipeline. So for Daly City, Colma, and South San Francisco, there is a Caltrans repavement project proposed, which is potentially supposed to go into construction on a 2026 timeline. It's one project which spans that entire corridor. On the non-Caltrans side, Colma, I think in the last 2 years finally adopted their El Camino corridor plan. And they also received funding from San Mateo County Transportation Authority for the second segment of El Camino to design that section. So it's possible that Colma might go ahead and actually get things implemented before this 2026 construction timeline of Caltrans. For San Bruno, yes, Anthony?
Is it okay if I add a little color to that whole process?
Sure.
Yeah, just so like, and I'm sure for those of you that have been in this space for a while, you've heard this before. And but when I first started with the coalition, I remember speaking with the planners and the engineers, rather, because they don't have planners. Colma's such a small town; they have engineers that do all the bike and ped stuff. They had no idea that this shop project was happening. So part of what we do is we connect the engineers or the planners in smaller towns with Caltrans and let them know, hey, you should coordinate together, because Colma, they were in an interesting spot where before the Caltrans could come in and do the repaving, they actually wanted to do some really expensive improvements that involves adding signals and adding actual like pedestrian sidewalks and things of that nature. But the way that the engineering would work, it could only work, and it would work best if Colma could get those improvements done first, and then Caltrans can come in and do their repaving. So sometimes when we are in our respective cities, we are almost sometimes, we're the glue. We're kind of relaying what we hear. And with respect to Colma, I just spoke with our Caltrans person for San Mateo County, and now they're actively discussing this with the engineers in Colma, and they're working together on this. So yeah, just we've all heard like the concerns with Caltrans and their lack of communication, and that's where we can help both sides connect and make sure that they're coordinating so that the project is robust and is successful.
Thank you, Anthony. And I did share this document with folks who registered, I think, yesterday, but I shared a link to this document. So it is for all of us to work on together. Feel free to provide any comments, feedback you have. It's a work in progress that we'll be working together. So it's a live document for all of you to work on. The next project or the next city is the city of San Bruno. So Caltrans does not have any repavement project pipeline in the pipeline, but they did a bike superhighway study, and they had selected San Bruno from the San Mateo County area. And that bike superhighway study actually proposes center lane bike lanes for the San Bruno stretch. So that's another totally tangent project that's going on. At the same time, San Bruno and Millbrae together applied for funding from assembly member for planning and implementation of El Camino Real for their stretch. Then Millbrae also has a project in pipeline with Caltrans, and that's on a 2028 construction timeline. Burlingame is a little bit unique because of the unique situation they have with eucalyptus trees. I'm not sure if you have been on that stretch, but the entire El Camino stretch totally changes when you enter Burlingame. There are about 85 to 90 eucalyptus trees, which are of lots of historic importance and also very dear to not just the residents, but also others around it. So Caltrans had a separate El Camino Real roadway renewal project, which was adopted in 2022 to discuss how to make infrastructure improvements around these trees. We did try to advocate for bike lanes for that stretch, but we were not successful, and so bike lanes were not incorporated in the final report. So Burlingame is always going to be a unique situation while dealing with when it comes to El Camino Real.
Sadia,
Next up is San. Yeah, go ahead.
So the portion that runs through the downtown area, though, the downtown specific plan did put in protected bike lanes along El Camino Real. So it's not the entire portion of Burlingame, but it's that little downtown area where El Camino runs through. That did get protected bike lanes, or at least it's in the plan now. So, that's one step forward.
Okay, thank you for that update. Next up is San Mateo. So Caltrans has a project which they're working on right now, and they're willing to put in bike lanes in that process, but they need a resolution from the city to remove parking. And those are conversations that are happening between the city of San Mateo and Caltrans. The city of San Mateo, on the other hand, is working with Samtrans on a ECR corridor plan. So Samtrans is planning a ECR corridor study for San Mateo, Belmont, and San Carlos, which will probably kick off in spring of 2024. And the city of San Mateo is waiting for that project to feed into the Caltrans shop project. And our role is basically to make sure they talk to each other, and whatever gets implemented is actually the same and not different, and hoping that Caltrans can be flexible around their timelines, and also Samtrans can be flexible around those timelines to make sure that the final outcome includes prioritization for people walking, biking, and transit. Next up is Redwood City, which is a whole another there's just so much going on in Redwood City. So Redwood City was the first city who actually put together their El Camino Real corridor plan back in 2017, and all cities' eyes were actually on Redwood City. They were all looking forward. Everyone hoped that Redwood City was going to be the first city to have anything on El Camino Real. But that got delayed, and they're still in a study process. They've put together, they've received funding from the TA, San Mateo County Transportation Authority, also from a people's participatory budget process for implementing bike lanes in their city. Caltrans also has a shop project in the pipeline. So now the city is basically figuring out, should we implement a Cookville project? Should we wait for Caltrans to do it anyways? And what should the city prioritize? So that is what's happening with Redwood City. And this is a very brief overview of the complicated process that's up there. North Fair Oaks, Atherton are all a part of the same Caltrans project, again, with a 2026 timeline. Atherton, on the other side, recently received funding for an El Camino Real Complete Streets gap closure application. So they're working on that study. And Atherton, and this study, I think, includes removal of one lane on El Camino Real on both sides in Atherton to accommodate bike ped lanes. Menlo Park doesn't really have any projects in the pipeline, but the city is starting to doing red curbing on El Camino so that they remove parking and that automatically makes space for bike lanes. So that is another way of approaching this and making space. Palo Alto, Los Altos, Mountain View, I think all of you have heard about this from us multiple times. There is a Caltrans repavement project. I believe Caltrans has already finalized a contractor and work will kick off in fall. Los Altos and Mountain View are definitely getting some sort of bike lanes in this process. What's happening with Palo Alto is all a black hole. Nobody knows. It's been really hard to get any update from Caltrans on that front. Sunnyvale, no projects in the pipeline. Santa Clara does have a safety project in the pipeline with Caltrans, and VTA also has a central bikeway study which proposes separated bike lanes for the El Camino Real stretch in Santa Clara. And VTA recently applied for funding for the final design and implementation of this corridor. So that's a very brief overview of what's happening, which is really exciting because like you'll see all of these blocks are full, which means that there is just so much happening and we could actually potentially have a continuous stretch for biking all the way from Daly City to San Jose. And here are other relevant projects. So it just lists down everything that's happening on El Camino with different agencies. So you can go through those at your timeline. Questions, anyone?
Yes, Sanja, this is Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Is there any kind of overall coordination between all the different projects so that there's some kind of standardization? And I know that the width of our community does vary and the circumstances vary a bit, but some kind of standardization, even with signage and with the way intersections are designed, would be helpful and would be an asset to safety.
No, there is no such coordination happening. Yeah, that's the only answer I have for you.
Yeah, I suspect as much. I don't know if we can put our heads together and think of any way of promoting such coordination. But VTA only covers Santa Clara counties, and it requires 2 counties to work together. At least within Santa Clara County, hopefully we can keep things reasonably consistent.
Yeah, and we hope to play that role so that there is just what Anthony put in the chat, that's the role we want to play so that there is standardization across. And we're actually looking at Caltrans to play that role as well as the owner of this right of way.
Oh, good point. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
There are a few hands raised, and some of them may have more to answer on that.
Sure.
I think the order was Adina, April, Peter, and then Juliano.
Okay.
With Adina, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Okay. And when we are finishing up, I'd like to talk about an event that is happening for Transit Month this weekend, and opportunities to attend and also to volunteer. But that will be at the end of this, and I have a question. And is there any effort to harmonize what is happening with the VTA and Samtrans initiatives to have various different bus priority treatments and the bicycle infrastructure? And it seems at a high level like some of these things are maybe not as compatible with each other as one might want them to be. So is this something that SVBC has any knowledge about?
Yes. So on that front, we'll be meeting with Samtrans separately, probably in the next couple of weeks, to discuss how we can collaborate together and instead of like fighting for bike lanes or bus lanes, how we can make this work together. So we'll be talking more in detail with both these separate agencies. So it's like a united front.
Okay, that sounds good. And one more thought is anyone putting together, joint effective practices for parking studies? Because parking is often parking removal is seen as a barrier to putting in bike and bus infrastructure. And, while from an ideal point of view, like we could say, well, the parking can vaporize and you will be in a better, more human-friendly, environmentally friendly world. There are various different, businesses and uses that do depend on the parking as well on El Camino Real, as well as parking that's extremely underutilized, but people still may feel that they depend on it, and it's possible to come up with creative solutions. For example, in Menlo Park, some parking spaces were removed off of El Camino Real and moved about 15 feet away around the corner. And so I was wondering if there's anything going on in terms of coming up with standard effective practices to be able to come up with the solutions.
I'm not sure if there is any such activity going on, but we'll know that for future. April.
Sure. I was just going to talk a little bit to the standards, coordination of standards and whatnot along ECR. I think probably the best thing we could do would be to push on ensuring that it's going to be difficult for anything that's broken ground and is slated to be started in the next year or so. But if we can push Caltrans to apply their new design guidance for complete streets, it would apply beautifully to ECR. And that's DIB 94. So there are a lot of great improvements in that standard, and it's going to most likely be approved in a couple of weeks. So I think that's where we should push and educate the different cities about this standard so they're aware of it. And then also Caltrans staff, because sometimes the bike and ped and some groups are just generally more aware of these standards than, and they're often groups, PMs or transportation engineers who aren't, it's a big organization and they're sometimes not as well educated or versed in some of these standards. So the more we're familiar with this document and can help others understand it and push for it, I think that would be a good approach to take.
Thanks, April, for that additional context. And April is also on the Caltrans D4 Bicycle Advisory Committee. So it's really great to work with her because she can actually push more on the Caltrans front internally. Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Sandia, and thank everybody from SVBC for putting this together and for challenging us all to get into the meeting. This is a tough Zoom to join, but I wanted to talk briefly about Belmont's particular condition. We have a bike plan and a streetscape design guideline that calls for kind of a class 4 on the north of Ralston to San Mateo city limits, and then class 2s down towards San Carlos. And I think based on this vision, I'd be happy to get behind it, but it's going to require, I think what a lot of us are getting at is some kind of conceptual design that looks at, how things should go between Daly City and San Jose, where we need parking removals, those type of things, because then I could begin to have discussions with my planning commission and my city council about some of the concepts and some of the actions they would need to take to facilitate it. We've gone after a couple of grants to get bike lanes in on El Camino. We've been unsuccessful so far, but I think some kind of, concept that connects us with the cities above and below us would be super helpful.
On that note, I do want to share that Samtrans is relaunching the Grand Boulevard initiative, and that was actually a place where cities could actually talk to each other and learn from each other about what's going on El Camino, what are they doing, and that was actually a great space. So you can exactly what you said, like talk to cities above and below to see what they're doing and how we can just copy paste instead of starting from scratch. And I believe Samtrans is going to hire an El Camino manager for this, like to run this Grand Boulevard initiative and their El Camino Real project. So that'll be a great space. But in the meantime, again, we're happy to play that role. And the event that Adina talked about, which is this Sunday, is actually a really good opportunity to learn about what are the different projects happening all the way from South City to Redwood City, to Mountain View, and it'll give you a glimpse of different projects in the pipeline. So stay tuned while Adina gives that overview at the end of this call. Giuliano.
Hey, Sonia, I sent you something DM, but just wanted to make sure that you saw it. The SMCTA has started discussions about the 101 Corridor Connect program. That might be another source of funding for this. Peter, relevant to something that you and I may have talked about before, but is relevant to all the cities. They are driving this based on cities' existing documents. So if the proposal isn't in place already, they're not looking to it, at least right now. As they identify gaps, they may then start looking for how to fill those gaps. But the more cities can describe and document what these plans are, the more likely that they will be to get these funds.
Yeah, and this is another good opportunity to just point out to the Caltrans D4 bike plan update, and where El Camino Real is a part of the D4 bike plan. So even if it's not in the city's bike plan, but if it gets identified at the state level bike plan, it can actually play a role in getting funding. April.
I was going to say, you could also push to me. I can include my email, but we talk about the active projects in the Caltrans back meetings, and we often go through ECR projects. So if there's something that I can also push in another direction through the back, the bike and ped group are a part of that meeting. So I'm not sure the best way of doing this, Sandhya, but then whenever there are updates that are related to ECR, it'd be good if I could sort of push them and I guess promote them at those meetings.
Yeah, I guess we can dive deep into that, like when we have that smaller group conversation, to see how we can actually strategize and build pressure. On that note, I'm going to push us to the next activity. So we were just going to do a Jamboard activity, which is like, let's discuss what are the different ways or what are the different actions we can take to draw attention towards El Camino, to prioritize El Camino. And this is at all different levels, at the local level to get support from your city, at the regional level to get support from regional agencies, and of course the state level, because they're going to be a really prime player in playing a role on this front. So use sticky notes to add on any ideas that you have. And if there is any idea that you are personally willing to pursue, take a lead on, volunteer, or be a part, add your name to that. Heather, Anthony, Diana, do you want to add or talk about a few things that have already been happening to draw attention towards El Camino?
Certainly. So would this be a good time also to tap Adina after I speak? I think so. So we're going to do a community engagement ride for the South City Complete Streets project. If you haven't had a chance to visit it, it's pretty cool. It has separated bike lanes with some flex posts. I'm not going to say protected because I understand that could be a little contentious. And then some Zikla platform so that people can ride up and over, and buses don't have to go all the way to the curve. So we're going to have a fun event where we're going to have kids come and ride and community members ride on the infrastructure, and then we're going to be hosted by a cafe called Spruce Cafe in South San Francisco, and we're going to get survey responses. Responses, and in exchange, the city is going to be providing free boba, free craft coffee from our hosts for participating and for completing the survey. So that's going to be next Saturday, September 30th. We're going to leave from Orange Memorial Park. We're going to do a loop around the project area and then circle back to Spruce Cafe, where we'll have refreshments. We're going to have the mayor of South San Francisco there, and she'll be addressing everyone and talking a little bit about the project as well. So that's one thing. And I know Adina will be doing something similar next week. So probably be a good time to do that.
Yeah. As many of you likely know, September is Transit Month, and that is a month-long celebration of public transportation and active transportation all around the Bay Area. And there's about 36 events going on all around the region. And one of them is this Sunday, and it is a tour of a number of different sites that have plans or in the works for bike and bus facilities along El Camino Real. The tour, as someone coming to the tour, you can visit 2 or 3 sites. There's a route starting in the north where people are gathering in South San Francisco, and then coming south, and then a route starting in the south where you can start either there are people starting in Sunnyvale, meeting up in Mountain View, and then getting on the train and coming to Redwood City. And then in Redwood City, there will be a local tour as well as a poster session at Redwood City Library, showing posters of a number of the projects that Sandhya just talked about. So I just posted the link to register for the event. And also there is a need for people to volunteer for the event, particularly if there's anyone here who knows how to use InDesign. One of the volunteers who was working on the posters got COVID, and so we are working on pulling together the remainder of the material for that poster session. So if there's anybody here with InDesign skills over the next couple of days, please do raise your hand who can help to put some of the remaining posters together.
I'll just add in, I'm looking at the Jamboard, and I'm seeing that we have a section on ride ideas, large rides like bike party that can take over a whole lane. So I wanted to highlight our Santa Clara team, Gabby Landaberry. She is the originator of the El Camino Real ride. A lot of times we hear when advocating with council is, why should we put a bike lane there? No one rides there. So I want to acknowledge her for organizing rides and making sure that they are visible and that the council has the opportunity to see that there is interest in these rides. The ride started off in Santa Clara and has grown to Sunnyvale, onto Mountain View, and next year we're hoping to add on Palo Alto. So if you have not joined us for our large ride on El Camino Real, yay Gabby, please do. It is an opportunity to show that there is definitely a need for protected bike lanes. And as we rode through on our last ride, we had some members from Mountain View point out some infrastructure areas, and also VTA and Sunnyvale. So it's a great opportunity to learn about what can be done and what is being done, and also to see some of the areas that really need the improvement.
Thank you, Diana. There are lots of great ideas trickling into this Jamboard. If you're interested in pursuing any of these and like maybe taking a lead or even being a part, please put your name on it. Yeah, we cannot do this alone. We have to do all of this together. So if we can get volunteers for actually leading or taking charge of some of these stuff, that would be super awesome. I know we're at time, so I'm going to quickly breeze through some of the next steps, but that Jamboard is open. The document that I shared is open for all of you to visit and go through at your time. I'll also be sharing all of these links later, so you can view check them out and provide any feedback that you have. The next part where did this go?
Hey, Sonia, you asked us to sign up for what we'd be interested in volunteering for, but I can't figure out how to do that.
So can you say that again?
You asked us to write down on the cards what we would be interested in helping with, but I can't figure out how to do that. When I try and edit a card or add a comment to a card, I can't figure it out. Sorry.
Yeah, just double click on that sticky note and add your name at the end.
But we can't even see the sticky note now. At least I can't. I just see people. How do you get there? I just
actually it's still working.
Well, what
if
am
you
I
have it on a browser, you can double click as Sandy was saying, and you can edit it.
And if it's not working for you, just like put in the chat and we'll add your name there, or email me.
I can't read any of the things that they said, so it's so tiny when you. I don't have a super large screen to read, so. Well.
Are you on a phone?
We can take that discussion offline and we can increase the font size so it's more visible and accessible, and we'll convert all of these ideas into a document so it's more visible and easy to read. So on that note, I'm going to quickly show us what we're going to do at the next small group discussion, or when we dive deep into the El Camino Real campaign. So we've created a power mapping sheet, and this power mapping sheet contains different folks at the state level, at the regional level, and at the local level. We've started populating this sheet with like names that we are aware of, and if we have relationships with them, is that office already on board? So the next activity we're going to do is basically populate this sheet together and find out if that office is on board. If you have a relationship with that office or with this person, put your name in there. There could be multiple people who has relationship with a particular person. Same with regional agencies and also with local agencies. For local agencies, we're listing down every council member for a particular city and then color coding to see if they are on board, if they're not. And then also figuring out if we have a relationship with that person already to pursue with, like, to have conversations with them on how to take this forward. So this is just a glimpse of what the next activity. We'll be sharing a link to this power mapping sheet. So if you have time, you can also populate that in your own time or do it as a part of your local team breakouts, which will be happening just in a few minutes. And then other different ways of getting involved include, first, if you're not a part of the El Camino Real team, and if you're interested in being just more updated on what's happening, make sure you join the El Camino Real local team. I'll be sending out a doodle poll after this meeting if you'd like to participate in a 2-hour deep dive on the campaign plan, where we actually sit together and work on the action item that we all listed on the Jamboard and strategizing, like, this is a 7-year campaign. So what are we going to do in the first year? What are we going to do in the next year? Who's going to take charge of what? Who talks to the state agencies? Who talks to the local agencies? So we'll be using that as like a workshop space, a retreat, as my team member Myra calls it, to work together on this campaign. And then Anthony and Adina already talked about upcoming events. So make sure to try, if you can join any of those two events, that would be great. The South City pilot is a really wonderful experience to see that El Camino could be a game changer with protected bike lanes. So it's going to be up until at least mid-October. So even if you're not able to go to these two events, do try it out and provide feedback. So all of that feedback goes to Caltrans and they know that people are liking it and actually implement it in more cities. There are two surveys which you can use to highlight concerns on El Camino Real. One is the CalBike State Highway Complete Street Survey, and the other is District 4 Bike Plan Update Survey from Caltrans. So make sure to take both the surveys and provide feedback that you need improvements on El Camino and you need those improvements now. So that's about it. I'll be sharing all of those links that I mentioned after this call. Anthony, Heather, Diana, anything that I missed?
I want to give the floor really quick to some of our folks in Palo Alto because Bike Palo Alto is back with a great enthusiasm. Okay, who's going to talk about it? I can talk about it. Bike Palo Alto is back. Here is the link to register. There's several routes that you can choose from. There's going to be I think it was Fair Meadows is going to be the place where they're going to host
Anthony.
it.
Hey, Anthony, Penny has her hand raised. Yeah.
Hi, this is Penny Elson. Realizing I had turned off my video, I apologize. My computer is not letting me do that. Okay. So Bike Palo Alto this year is going to be October 1st from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is an event where it's a grassroots event that happened for 10 years in a row, and then the pandemic came, and this will be the first one. That's why we're saying Palo Alto is back, because it's a really popular, actually cherished Palo Alto event. People who come are given a choice between 4 route maps. And these route maps help people explore and discover off-road bike paths and trails, bike bridges, the quiet routes that make Palo Alto such a fabulous place to ride a bicycle. That many people, who when they're driving, they never see. They don't know about. So Anthony, thank you for putting up the link to the website. I have asked Anthony to also share a blurb with all of our groups so that you can share this with your friends and your families and whatever way you want to do it. We want to get the word out. We want to invite lots of people in because it's super fun. But they can see the bike boulevards and the shady streets, and we have calmer, quieter routes that kind of get you off the main drags to the streets that are comfortable for everyone. So anyway, thank you. Are there any questions?
Penny, you might want to mention, this is Kathy, that this is not primarily for folks who already bike on El Camino or all over hundreds of miles. This is for introducing more people to biking more places more often in our supposedly bike-friendly town, which we're working on it. But so that's, there will be lots of families, lots of newbies, and we welcome volunteers who can help, spread the joy.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Kathy. And I do want to say too, as an organizer who's a senior citizen and a bicyclist in Palo Alto, I often hear seniors say, I can't ride a bike, I'm too old for that. And I just want to say that the routes we're taking people on here are going to be routes that even a relatively inexperienced bicyclist can ride comfortably. So I hope people will spread the word. I'm seeing questions about volunteering, and my email address is pennyelson12, PENNYELLSON 12 bikepalos@gmail.com. You can, if you're interested in volunteering, you can either go to our website, bikepaloalto.org, and there's a volunteer page there where you can sign up or you can reach out to me.
Thank you, Penny and Kathy. Before we close out, I saw there were quite a lot of questions around the homeless situation in Palo Alto, or the RVs that are lined up in Palo Alto along El Camino. And I particularly want to address that because we're not saying remove the RVs that are parked on El Camino to accommodate bike lanes. We actually don't need to do that because there is already a class 1 bike trail parallel to that stretch where RVs are parked or where there are motorhomes. So we're totally in support of keeping that parking as is, and then just moving the bike lane or just connecting the bike lane to the bike trail and moving bicyclists in that direction. Anyways, if you have any other questions about El Camino Real, please reach out to us at any point, and we look forward to seeing you at the next check-in. Thank you so much. Diana?